So let's build a hands-on application on how to build a list report application with search and analytical capabilities. So the first step is to build the data model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of this custom table as a source, and we are going to implement a Seediest view on top of this. So this is one of the custom table that was created, which contains information like sales order, business partner, amount, and status. So the content of this particular table is this. So what we will be doing is we will be creating a serious view on top of this, and then we will add the required annotation and build the Fury application on top of it. So to create a CDS view, I'm going to open the Eclipse. So I have opened the Eclipse. Now to build the CDS view in the core data services, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to say new. I'm going to create a new data definition. So I'm just going to name it as Z list report underscore SA. I'm going to give the description as list report application with search and analytics. Click on next, and then I'm going to say finish. So now a serious view template is generated. So I'm just going to go ahead and give the view name Z, say for example, Z list report underscore V. Then in the data source, I wanted to use this table Z tab underscore SO as a data source from which we are going to get the content. So it is always better to add a system alias name. So I'm just going to represent this table with a system alias as sales order. Now inside the view, we are going to define the list of fields that has to be part of the view. So I'm just going to press Control space to use the template. So I'm just going to choose the first option, insert all elements, which will insert all elements from the table Z tab underscore SO. So we do not need the client field. So I'm just going to make this client field by giving this UI annotation UI.hidden as true, which means um, this field will not be displayed in the UI, or rather we could also remove this field itself. It's not of much use. So now that we have given the system alias, all the fields that are represented over here um, has to be prefixed with the alias. So it means that in the sales order table we have this sales order field. In this sales order table we have this business partner and so on. So I'll just add this sales order alias name as a prefix to all the fields. And also it is better to add a alias for the individual field as well. So I'm just going to add an alias as sales order. So this is how it's going to be represented in the service. For business partner, I'm just going to give it as business partner, currency code. So I've just given a alias name for each of this particular fields. So now I'm just going to activate this view. To test the content of this view, I'm just going to say like right click on the view, open with and data preview. So this is picking the data from a different client. So you just see a limited number of data here. So now we have developed a base CDS view which is going to give us the data. So now on top of this view, we will add our annotation, and then we will build the list. We will build the list report applications. So the annotation that I'm going to add now is only going to be required for building the list report application. So I'm just going to go ahead and first add the semantic annotation. So I'm just going to add this semantic annotation where I'm going to tell the framework that this particular column currency code is going to be the field which is going to contain the currency field information. So in the semantics, we have this currency code annotation, which we are going to set it as a true, which will tell the Seediest View runtime that this particular column is going to contain the currency information. Then I wanted this particular currency to be referenced for this gross amount and net amount. So the gross amount and net amount is going to display some value. Say for example 1000 or 2000. So now what this 1000 or 2000 represent, whether it's a 1000 INR or 1000 USD or 1000 European pounds. So I'm going to say that this particular column is going to have an amount, whereas the currency of this particular column is going to be this particular column which we have created with the alias name currency code. So I'm going to add another semantic annotation where this time I'm going to use this semantic annotation for amount, and I'm going to say that the currency code property is this particular column that we have created. So this particular column currency code is going to have the currency code for this gross amount. So same way I'm just going to add this for the net amount as well. Then in order to create a OData service on top of the CDS view, I'm going to add this annotation at OData dot publish is equal to true, which is while which when activating the CDS view, it's going to tell that create a service gateway service for this. So now I'm just going to add other annotations such as UI dot line item annotation in order to construct the table fields. So I'm just going to add this UI dot line item annotation, to which I'm going to give the position property as 10. It's just the order in which the column has to be displayed. The list value will be displayed first. So I'm just going to start with 10, 20, 30 and so on. So the position 10 will be displayed first, for which I'm also going to give the label as sales order. So similarly, for all the fields that I wanted to display on the app, I'm just going to give this UI line item annotation. So in the previous application that we have seen, we have added the annotation from the web ID itself, from the UI level itself, whereas now we are adding the annotation along with the data model itself. So irrespective of whichever the framework that we are going to use, this annotation will be still be valid. So we have added the UI.line item annotation for all of these columns, which we wanted to display in the table format. So now I will go ahead and activate this CDS view. So what happens is that when you are activating the CDS view, this vodata.publish annotation will tell us that it has created a service with the name of the CDS view along with the suffix underscore CDS. So when you highlight on this yellow color icon, it shows you the name of the service that has been generated. And then an annotation file will be created which will be containing all this UI level annotation, which tells the Fiori applications that these are the table columns that you need to use while rendering the applications. So now to consume that in the front end, first we will go ahead and register this service. So I'll just go to this transaction IWFND main underscore service, and here we will first register this service. So z list report underscore SA underscore CDS will be the name of the service that will be generated. So we just add this service. So you could see that this service has been registered now. Now we will go to the web IDE and we will consume this application from there. So now I'm just going to use this list report template. So I'm just creating a project from template where the template that I'm going to choose is the list report application. I'm just going to name it as list report demo. So I'm just going to give the namespace as UI.demo. Click on next. And from the source, so we select our service. Click on next. So now you could see that an annotation file exists. So you can add this annotation file, or what happens is that when you load the application, the system will make a call to the backend system requesting for the annotation file, and the annotation file will be loaded at runtime. So I wanted the annotation file to be loaded at runtime. So I'm just going to click on next, and then I'm just going to choose the entity set, which will be the name of the CDS view itself, and say click on finish. So now we have built this list report application. So we will run this. So the first time you're going to run this application, it's going to take quite some amount of time. So I'm just going to pause. So once the application is loaded, what you see is that we have a list report template where you can see whatever the UI.line item annotation that we have given as a column. Those columns are already available for the table. So now if you click on go, there is no filters as such. We haven't added any filters, but you can click on the adapt filter and then you can just add the filtering condition on your own, but that's not going to be persisted. You have to add the filters every time you use the application. So now when you click on go, you could see that the service is getting executed and the data from the service will be displayed here in the form of a table. So the first thing that I wanted to do here is that I wanted to add a a search annotation. So in most of the standard application, you will be seeing the first column as a search, which will be the default search, which can compare value from any of these particular columns, either from sales order or business partner or gross amount. You enter some value, that value will be referenced across all the columns in the table and it will be filtering accordingly. So it's a default search element where it doesn't point to a specific column like sales order or business partner. So to add that, I'm going to go back to the Seediest view and then I'm going to add this annotation called at search dot searchable is equal to true. So we are going to say the framework that this particular view is searchable by any of this particular column, and also to tell the framework that when someone enter the value you compare with that of this particular field. So I'm going to say that I wanted to compare the value with that of this sales order field. So I'm just going to add the annotation over here as search dot. I wanted this to be default search element, but I also wanted to give the fuzziness threshold. Fuzziness threshold means what is the percentage of the match should I consider as a valid search. So to give both this value, I'm just going to give this value as an object. So I'll just open a curly braces and then I'm going to say that this is going to be the default search element, and then I'm going to give this fuzziness threshold as 0.7. So 70% match should be sufficient for me. So in order to get the help, you just press Control space on the keyboard, and then it will just show you the list of possible values for that annotation. So now I have just added this search annotation, and I'm going to activate this. So when you're going to activate it, what is going to happen is that whatever the annotation that we are going to add, that we have added, they are going to be added to the annotation file as well. Sometimes what happens is that there will be a catch and the annotation may not reflect, and when you reload your application you will be still seeing the same result. So to clear the annotation catch, just go to cleanup of catch model, search for our Seediest view, so with the name of our Seediest view you will be seeing this model identifier with a 4-digit number and then underscore B. So just have this selected as cleanup catch for all models and then execute. So this will clean up the catch. Now if I go ahead and reload the application, I should be seeing the changes reflected over here. So now you could see this search box appearing over here. So now I have made this search box to point out to that of this sales order number. So now whatever the value that I enter over here, that will get matched along with the sales order column, and then the result is being displayed. Now I wanted to add two more fields over here which I wanted it to be default. So if you click on this adapt filter, you could see that all the 11 columns of the Seediest view is filterable. So now for the time being we have added this filter over here, and we can restrict the data according to this particular filters. Let's say for example I wanted to see the sales order 1003, we can restrict them. But after you reload the application, these two filter criteria will disappear because that is something we have just added at the UI level while executing our application. In order to have a fixed selection criteria, it has to come from the annotation. So in the previous example, we have added this UI dot selection field annotation from the UI layer itself. Now we will be adding it in the Seediest view itself. So to add that annotation, I'm just going to go ahead and add this annotation called at UI dot selection field, in which I'm just going to give the position property, that is the sequence in which it has to be executed. So I'm just giving the UI dot selection field annotation for the sales order and then for the business partner. So we'll activate this Seediest view, clean the cache. So now if I reload the application, I should see the changes reflecting, and when the application is being rendered, it should come up with the sales order and business partner as a default selection field. So you can see that sales order ID and the business partner ID, they came up as a default selection field, which you can use for filtering your content. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to add the analytical aggregation like sum. So now what you see over here, the content of this particular Seediest view is by default displayed in the form of a responsive table, that is sap.m.table. So if you check the metadata, the table that is created over here would be a sap.m.table control. Now when you're going to add the analytical capabilities, what happens is that based on the annotation, the template will by default switch from the responsive table to that of an analytical table. So we will go back to the Seediest view and we will be adding an annotation default aggregation as sum for this gross amount on the net amount, with which we are going to for which columns we are going to display the subtotals. So going back to the Seediest view, to the gross amount, I'm just going to add this annotation at default aggregation as I wanted the aggregation to be sum. So you can try out the remaining option that is available here. So I'm just adding the aggregation as sum for both gross amount and the net amount. So I'll activate the Seediest view, clear the cache, and now I will reload this application. Now you can see the changes reflecting over here. The table which is used to display the content will shift from responsive table to that of an analytical table. So now you can see the change in the table structure. So if I click on go, you could see that the table which is displayed right now is an analytical table, and then you can just see the sum value at the end of this particular end of the content. You will be seeing this particular values, right? So now we have seen how to build a simple list report application which has this search criteria as well as this simple analytical features. Now, the next application that we are going to see, I'll be explaining how to build a OData, how to build a Seediest view, which will also create a BOPF object in the backend, and then build a transactional application on top of that with functionality like create, read, update, and delete. So in this particular template application, it's a list report application, but we still only see the option of get. So we are only doing the read operation, getting the content, and we are displaying it. Now we will, in the next application, we will build with the transaction capabilities like create option, update option, and delete option. So thanks for watching.